Hello, welcome to Money Matters TV. My name's Paul Mitchell. I'm a commercial banker. I'm your host for this show. With me is Patty Twadros, my co-host. Patty, good to see you.
Nice
welcome
to
again.
See you. Thank you.
We're going to have an interesting show this today, and we have a very interesting special guest later on, Candida Seasock, who runs her own consulting firm for many, many years. So, Patty, what's new in your world?
What's new? Technology is constantly changing. Our clients shift a little bit from time to time. And I know we briefly chatted about insurance. Mm-hmm. Are you in the insurance space? Have you worked with the insurance space in the past?
No, I haven't. I've bought insurance.
Yeah, everybody enjoys that once a year, right?
Oh, well, you got to insure your car, you got to insure your life, you got to insure your house, you got to insure everything. But other aspects of the financial industries where they sort of nip and tuck with technology, I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about that on the show. For example, the healthcare industry. Now, is there a bigger, faster growing industry than healthcare? Especially if you talk healthcare / technology aspects of it.
I feel like the healthcare organizations are becoming, they're consolidating and becoming behemoths. Mm-hmm. Is that the right word?
Well, the hospitals are certainly doing that, right? The chains now, sure, yeah.
Yeah, the hospitals, so there's less providers, less places you can go. That's what I've been noticing. What about you?
Well, there's less places to go. On the one hand, like I'll say maybe the big hospitals, big old hospitals, I'll say.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it seems in every nice retail corner I see some medical facility going up or being renovated or something, whether it's an urgent care facility that may be affiliated with a hospital or maybe privately owned. There are chains of those. Or even, I saw there was at a location of a famous diner in New Jersey that closed years ago, is now going to be the site of I think it's a reproductive center, consulting center, if you will, something of that.
Wow.
Yeah, so prime location. It's going to be a big, fancy glass building. It's going to be very attractive and attract people. So their new facilities are going up. But I guess the healthcare industry is changing, it's evolving.
How, I know because you're a commercial banker and they're putting in all these clinics and you say it seems like it's on every corner.
Yes.
At what point does it become too many and then they don't get the financing? And let me also say that I told my best friend the other day what you said when we talked last time, that the old days, the bankers would say, well, what do you want to use this personal loan for?
Right.
You would tell them and they could say no, like they were your mom or dad.
We'd be judgmental, absolutely.
Yeah, and now it's a free-for-all. Yeah. So is it still a free-for-all when you want to get commercial money?
No, commercial money is probably more different there. I mean, for example, banks, typically most banks will say, we don't finance gambling casinos, we don't finance adult video shops, things of that ilk.
With a moral clause, to say.
You could say that, sure. And reputation in the community.
I know I won't do business myself with something I would be embarrassed to tell my mom about.
It's a good moral
That's
standard.
my caliber. That's where I draw the line. Yeah. And she's a very conservative gal. So how do they borrow money to put up all these clinics when there's so many of them already?
Well, it's a good challenging question. I would have that concern myself. I looked at financing one several years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when the concept was kind of relatively new. New, that is in this phase. 10, 15 years ago, there was a growth of them. They call them nicknamed Doc in the Box.
Oh, I never heard that nickname.
And they kind of like appeared and went away. It didn't work for whatever reason. This time around, it seems to be working, and it's quite competitive. You do have the hospitals involved. They probably provide maybe a third of them, but the other 2/3 are chains. Some can even be public companies and that type of thing. But I would agree with your point very strongly. 5 years ago, if there was a Doc in the Box every 5 miles, let's say, now there seems to be a Doc in the Box like a Dunkin' Donuts every mile and a half or every mile.
Right.
And they're I've been to them. They're okay, but they're a lot of their main business. So they have to be pretty sharp and pretty intense. For example, those that one of the marketing plans I saw, they're going to be focused a lot on the local recreational and high school sports teams for the checkups. Okay.
Oh.
Good, solid, repeat business. They get dozens or maybe 100 patients, if you will.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. Every 6 months, every year. That's good repeat business. Just to rely upon the person that drops the knife from their counter and cuts their finger, like I did.
I'm sorry to hear that, but we did have one of those clinics near my old job, my very first job out of college, and I had to go and get a physical. Everybody had to go.
Yeah.
And now it's a Wawa, so it didn't stay in business, this clinic.
Maybe goes a little bit to my point about the phase back then.
Yeah.
But any kind of new thing that there are multiple players get into, it could even be building apartments in Philadelphia, for example. Okay. Well, people are moving into Philadelphia, lots of baby boomers, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the trouble is, nobody really knows how many other apartments or how many other urgent cares are being built at the same time within whatever's a 2 or 5 or 10 mile radius. And then you find out two years later, wow, there's an oversupply.
There seems
Who's
like
gonna
there's
survive?
one right now.
Yeah.
Definitely an oversupply.
So how many accidents do we have to keep them busy? I mean, were they not busy 2 years ago? How many sports players from high schools do we need to keep them busy?
They seem like they belong to hospital chains. Like when I went once, I thought I had strep throat on the weekend. I couldn't get to my doctor. So I went there, and it was really expensive. It was like $150.
Yeah, sure.
Instead of a doctor's visit, it was more like an ER visit, and it belonged to Jefferson. That's the ones that I see around the city a lot, are the Jefferson clinics.
Yeah. Well, there are two, I think, aspects they're trying to fulfill. One is as a feeder to the hospitals themselves. So like, well, if you need more treatment, we can't really take care of you here, or we can just patch you up, but you should see somebody at the regular hospital.
Okay.
And the other one is simply just to make money, to find another avenue, and to get out more in the community. You see a lot more of these hospital facilities establishing maybe good-sized facilities out in the suburbs to get near their patients too. It's a marketing technique.
I know CHOP is opening a few smaller
Sure.
clinics in King of Prussia area.
Yeah. And some of them look wonderful,
Oh, they're
very
beautiful.
attractive, very attractive. And
Very
inside,
fancy.
very attractive too.
Yeah.
Private rooms and atriums and all this type of stuff. So it can be a fun experience going to the hospital.
I would say the upside to going to those little clinics is that if you're sick and you go to the hospital, could be a 3-4 hour wait. But if you go to a little clinic,
Or much
if
longer
you get
wait than 3 or 4
lucky,
hours. Yeah,
it's short.
that's their concept. Yeah, certainly within the hour, I would say.
Yeah.
Sure.
Speaking of things that are overpopulated, when we talk about these high-rise buildings that are all over Philadelphia, what I notice is that they always try and put the retail space on the bottom, and they
yes.
sit empty forever.
Wow.
I don't want to name names, but several buildings on Market Street are empty. Some of the new high-rises on Chestnut Street are empty.
Wow.
And I think, when are they going to put them? They have signs on there,
Yeah.
coming soon, a restaurant,
Uh-huh.
and then the restaurant goes away, and then it
Yeah,
becomes something
yeah,
else.
yeah.
Nothing ever comes
Well,
to fruition.
That's a good point. See, if I were a banker, okay, financing a facility like that, I would want to have much more of that nailed down
Yeah.
ahead of time. Not just, okay, we're going to put it up, we're going to get in a bunch of restaurants or drugstores and that type of thing. It'll take 12 months, trust us. Well, when a bank typically finances like a shopping center, it wants to see an anchor tenant in hand.
Oh, yeah.
They want to see the bank. They want to see the good growing stable department store. I'm not sure if there are any of those left, but
I can
that
tell
type
you-
of thing. A big supermarket.
The Murano, which is at 21st and Market, when I moved into my condo, which was a few blocks away, that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when the Murano was built, and it's still nobody in there.
Well, sounds like the day of the Great Recession, 10 years ago. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, on the other hand, I'll give you another example. Near where I live in Fairmount area, where the new Whole Foods super
beautiful.
store
Yeah.
is on the ground floor. There are apartments and condos up above, and a couple others nearby. I think all the ground floor of those upon condos and apartments are occupied.
I would want to live above Whole Foods. It would be the ultimate takeout.
Well, if you can afford it.
So I'm excited to meet our guest today, someone
Yes.
that you've known for a while, I think.
It's indeed. I think I might have even introduced her to Money Matters show some years earlier.
Yeah.
So a real
2010.
pleasure. 2010. So before we get to our guest, though, I do have a question from our listeners. And let me find the question here. The question from Tom Victor of Philadelphia. And this is aimed right at you, Patty, right up your
Okay.
area. What are some new upgrades that you should have on your website?
Oh, I'm going to say the biggest one by far is that your website has to be mobile friendly. There's no questions about it. And I've spoken about this a bunch of times and people think, oh, mobile friendly, that's for somebody on their phone searching beer store near me when you're driving.
Yeah.
But that's not what it's for. They say that something like 60 to 70%, and the numbers climbing, of searches are done on a mobile phone while you're sitting in front of your desktop computer or a laptop.
Okay.
So you just sort of lean back in your chair and you start Googling things that you need to look up. I don't know why, but that's what people are doing.
So what's the difference? What do I have to do to my websites that I can't somebody just can't, get on my website from their phone anyway?
Right. So the difference is that Google says if your website is not coded in a way that's considered responsive, so you can have two different websites. You can have your static website that's for your regular, the desktop computer, and then you have this little one that scales. It's just for your mobile.
Okay.
But the better way to do it is responsive design means that it'll automatically scale to any size device that you have. And if you don't have that and somebody searches for your company on their phone or your industry, a hospital near me, and the hospital wasn't mobile friendly, they'll show the competitor above you. You might not even show in the search results.
Wow.
So people think it's not a big deal, but it is.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to help them.
Okay. So what's the difference between that and having a mobile app?
Depends what your business is. Let's say you have a little retail shop and people can shop. So it might be fun to have an app they can download and people can do their online shopping on their phone, like using a Nordstrom app or a Bloomingdale's app. But the thing is that you have to maintain multiple platforms now. Now you have to maintain your mobile device and keep upgrading it. Now you have to also keep your website up to date and make sure everything looks the same. So unless you have a lot of money or Nordstrom or someone of that caliber, I feel like an app is overkill for a regular business. For certain industries, it makes sense to have an app.
Well, final question then. You said you do this type of thing, but can somebody go online and try to do it on their own to adapt their regular website so it's more mobile friendly?
Not adapt their current site easily on their own unless they're really interested in getting into coding, which I code and I don't want to do it. So what I would say is if they used a site, like we've talked about it in a few shows ago, Squarespace or Wix or WordPress, those will keep your site up to date if you're in the right one and make it mobile friendly, or they can get a new theme for WordPress that is mobile friendly. So there's budget ways around it.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Okay. Oh boy. Well, it sounds like you got to do your homework,
Yes.
like most things, whether it's business or finance. It's a big world out there. Check around, talk to a couple different sources, a couple different people, look at a couple different websites, get some different opinions, different perspectives. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Yeah. And how can they send their questions in?
They can send their questions in by writing to Money Matters TV, sending an email, and then we can respond to that.
Great.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Now I'd like to welcome our guest for the show, Candida Seasock. Candida,
Nice to see you again.
pleasure to come.
Yeah.
We've known each other for a long time. Great to see you and cutting an update on your activities. One of the most active and networking consultants in the greater Philadelphia, South Jersey area. Now, CTS Partners is your kind of your global
Company.
universe company. And you've done various things over the years, and the most recent one, I believe, is called E-Lab. But it's not a medical term, lab.
No.
It's a business lab. Or
It's executive leaders for advisory boards.
Okay. So how does that work? How'd you get into that?
Well, as you know, I've had my business since 2004, and somewhere around 2010, one of my clients said, I need an advisory board. I said, I can accommodate. And then I thought about it, going, I better find the right people for the right company, with the right cultural mix, with the expertise in the pillars of a company, with industry expertise. And that's how I built this particular board for this particular company. Now, distinctively, an advisory board is not a board of directors. It's not fiduciary in the sense, and it's not governance, and it's not liability. What happens where a well-defined advisory board, it is fiduciary, because they get very involved in the client through the quarterly meetings, the monthly conference calls, and then the CEO can actually talk to any of the board members. And the board of an advisory board are usually 4 or 5, 6, sometimes 2 or 3. It's not a big board of directors, because it's not governance. And it's usually for companies that are private, family-owned businesses, or just private companies. They could be partners, whatever the situation is of their business. And it's there to help them drive the company forward strategically.
I'm curious, how do you compensate an advisory board?
Their stipend, it's different than a board of directors type of compensation. Their stipend depending on the size of the company and the efforts put into that advisory board.
And how do you figure that out? I'm sure that that's something you help a business owner do.
I do.
Yeah.
And it's all dependent on the several situation and industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the size of a typical advisory board?
Oh, I have advisory board that are 3 people, and I have advisory board that are 7 people. The 7 people advisory board are 7 individuals or expertise or executives. Basically, I have 2 industry experts in that particular board, but it's it's my 4th year on that board. So it's grown from 3 advisors to 4, and now because of the product, we have legal on it, a particular law firm in this area that specializes in that kind of product and that kind of industry. So it will evolve. It probably will never be bigger than 7 or 6, because they're advisors. It's continuous conversation. It's not governance where somebody's taking copious notes. It's more open conversation and to-do list for the board members.
Well, it sounds to me, and just throwing this out, as there's some outfits, I call them around, whether it's Vistage or advisory board or your company board, things like that, that sort of try to do the same thing.
Vistage is a wonderful organization. 2 of my clients are Vistage member. One of them is a member of C2, and there's different kinds of Vistages, yes. And that's a whole different model. That model is you talk about your business, whatever pillars of your business, whether it's finance or operations, with your peers. You get thoughts and ideas, whereas an advisory board is only geared to you, the CEO, and your company. So they're only focused on that, not any other companies.
So you look at a company where they are today, where they want to get, and then you assess what they're missing?
Yeah, it's usually a company that is interested in growth. It's evolving from 5 million to 20 million, or once again, from 50 million to 100 million. There is a strategic reason for them to have these executives as their advisors, and they're usually executives.
It's interesting. This afternoon, I'm going to an event that one of our previous guests told us about, and it's about figuring out how to sell your business, when to sell your business at Obermeyer. And I'm really interested in this whole idea of figuring out how to scale. So you go into a small business. Do you have a minimum size that you'll go into?
Once a year, I take a small business to $1 million, less than $1 million, and by the end of the year, if I take them in January, by the end of that year, there are $4 million, just by putting certain things and processes in place.
Wow, how do you choose that company?
Well, entrepreneurs, and it's usually somebody will call me.
Yeah.
All my business is word of mouth. I have clients where I deal directly with the CEO and the partners, and if they walked into this room, I couldn't even tell you they were a client. So, and I have clients that might have me on their website with the other advisors. They'll do that for advisory boards, but if it's one-to-one advisements for the strategy of your company, I'm usually not on their website.
Yeah, you're the secret weapon.
I'm the secret weapon,
Yeah, that makes sense. How did you end up making this the direction you're in? I watched your interview from maybe 2000?
2010, wasn't it?
Oh, 2010, sorry.
Yeah.
When you were doing more about helping companies scale for sale?
Yeah.
Yeah, more marketing or just sales development,
Well,
business development.
Well, I was doing a lot of business consulting.
Mhm.
And part of business consulting, growth of the company, is your marketing and strategy and sales.
Right.
Because without marketing, sales, and operations working together, it doesn't matter what the product is.
So it was really just that one trigger where you built that advisory board and you
That was
You really
that one
loved it?
client, yes.
yeah.
Yeah. As he always says, you gave me such a strange face when I told you that. It's because I hadn't done it. I'd done it for nonprofit, but I'd never done it for profit.
Sure.
But I had I have a vast executives that I deal with, and that's what actually built that firm.
An amazing network. It's hard to run into somebody that, Candida Seasock. Oh yes, I know Candida.
In fact, with eLab, we're at 40 executives. Some have served on my board, some will probably serve on future boards, but eLab was created so that members would help each other out, and if there are boards to serve on, you have to know somebody before you're going to put them on a board.
Of course.
Yeah, so I created it for that reason, because I was going all over the place talking to my network and saying, these are the qualifications for this board, can I put you on it?
Mhm.
I figured, why don't I just bring them all together and, have them as a captive audience, and they can also learn how to do this.
Sure.
So explain how it works in your organization. Do you have, say, 40 people that are advisors, and do they advise on multiple companies?
Some of the members of eLab are on board of directors, and some just board of advisors. Some are there because they like to network and use the members as part of their network. Did I answer your question, or was that going somewhere else? I missed
Maybe
it.
a little bit somewhere else. I guess, do you have a pool of advisors that you assign, I guess is my question.
I have through the last, so now it's 2017, I started this in 2010 as part of the business. I've had a pool of advisors that I've used at different advisory boards, yes.
Yeah. So you kind of recruit people to be
I
your
do.
advisors.
Yes.
That's neat.
Most businesses, especially successful businesses or successful industries, they're competitors. You have, tell us about your competition.
Well, there's pockets of groups that build advisory boards. What I understand from my colleagues is that my model is very strict. And I modeled it after the NACD, which is the National Association of Corporate Directors, which I'm a member of, because I wanted it to be more of a discipline where the CEO comes to the advisory board prepared, and the people at the advisory board are focused on that particular company and not something else, and that they're free to talk. So, which is different than being a governance board. They run that differently, whereas the model has a copy of it in the sense it models the not the rules and regulation, but models the format of formality, but it doesn't model the liability.
Which is an interesting point, because there are plenty of directors, whether it's or trustees of a state, could be a state university, could be a company, that get their face on the front page of
Sure.
the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and
For
whatever.
good and bad reasons.
And that's,
Right.
mostly for bad reasons.
Yes. I mean, being on the board of directors is, and I've sat on board of directors. You've got all kinds of things, including heavy liability insurance. I didn't think that the target I was going after, which is companies that are private or family-owned, second-generation partners, they're not a board of directors type. They need advisors for growth. They need people around them that they could never pay for all the 4 or 5 executives, but they get their knowledge.
Yeah.
And people that sit on these advisory board want to give knowledge, want to grow a company.
So while you have obviously competitors that do something similar, how do you handle when you are focused in one industry having companies that compete with each other all being your clients?
I don't. My clients run across the gamut. I have manufacturing, supply chains, medical devices, accounting firm, law firms.
But do you only take one of each?
I have to be very careful in the technology space that I don't duplicate.
Right.
Everywhere else it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Because in manufacturing, I'm not going to have 2 of the same kind. It would be kind of odd around here. You know, in supply chain, it would be different. Accounting firm, it doesn't matter, because if I'm advising the partners, it's not going to be the same at another accounting firm. And I normally don't duplicate in those areas. Technology, because of my background, I get a lot of calls to, you know, help them with their strategy, their growth, and build their advisory board. I've had to say no quite a few times because they were too close to the client I had.
Yeah.
Even if it's a client on a retainer, because I'm just their sole advisor, I really can't duplicate it.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a passion in a specific field?
I don't know if it's a specific field or the type of company. I look for companies where the CEO wants to be more strategic, but he or she is already. They're good to their employees. They respect the people around them. They want to grow their company for financial stability. It's not that they want to sell it tomorrow. I do not do well with companies that want me in there, turn everything around, and they sell tomorrow. It's just not my speed. I like the growth part of it. I like employees that they care for, that they have ethics and integrity and a very good sense of humor, because anytime you bring a consultant you're churning different things. You're preparing for the next layer of growth, You should have a good sense of humor.
You see yourself in let's say 4 years, what you're doing now will have evolved, changed as business changes and the world changes, or I think there's still just more of the same for an extended period of time?
To one part, it is more of the same, because advisory boards have been around since forever, as much as the board of directors. I think it evolves. The more we, as eLab, speak to CEOs about building their advisory board, the more advisory boards for more businesses, the better chance of that business surviving through good times and bad times. Because you're seeing from outside advisors looking in, you're getting a different perspective. You're getting knowledge straight out. So you're surrounding yourself by people that are looking after the growth of the company for the reasoning that it keeps the economy going.
Sure.
And throughout all this economy's ups and downs, it's been small business that actually employed people and kept employed.
Well, Connor, that's a great story. So if our viewers want to get a hold of you, contact you, how could they do that? Website,
yes,
email?
Well, we do our eLab website, since we're only 4 years in eLab, will be going up in June or July. So you
Okay.
can contact me at 609-471-1188. I reply to texts. My personal email is pjscts@comcast.net.
Terrific. Connor, thank you very much. Good luck with your business. And it's great to see a great advocate of small business and the backbone of America. I agree with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me here again.
So, in conclusion, we just want to remind you that on this show, your money matters.